the Creatures of the Night tag, specifically Book Creatures of the Night tag, which was a video tag originally created by Katytastic. She's pretty cool. I love her. Her eyebrows are amazing. Like, I wish my eye makeup looked the way hers does. But I don't have that kind of patience or that kind of skill. This is my, let's see, third recorded video for Novemberween. The first one is the one that's going up tomorrow. Right now it's Sunday, so on Monday, my review of the book Worlds of Ink and Shadow by Lena Coakley, and then the one after that is the one that I just got done recording, my Halloween book tag, and then now I'm recording this, and I don't know if it's going to go up next or if I'm going to put up another review next. I'm not sure yet, because I'm about 2/3 of the way done with my reread of Castle Hangnail, and I'm planning on reviewing it as soon as I finish it. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, so the Book Creatures of the Night tag is a list of mythical evil creatures, generally evil creatures, spooky, spoopy creatures, and your favorite, or in this case my favorite, book that features those creatures. So let's get started. Monster number one? I don't know. Monster number one. Vampires. This was hard because I love vampires, like, a lot. And, you know, also, like, whenever people talk about vampires nowadays, it's always like, Twilight! And it's like, no! Or the Vampire Diaries. It's either Twilight or the Vampire Diaries. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I've read the Vampire Diaries, didn't like them. Loved the show, didn't like the books. And Twilight's okay. I'm planning on reviewing that at some point, probably for Novemberween. But, I really had to think about it, and then I realized that I was missing, like, the perfect answer. Nosferatu by Joe Hill. That's not his real name. I don't know what his real name is. But Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King, which is why he's going by Joe Hill. He didn't want to get published on the basis that he's the son of Stephen King. Nosferatu is his second book. He's only written like 4 books, and I've only read this one because the premise of 2 of them didn't strike my fancy, like, at all, and I don't think the 4th one's even out yet, so I haven't looked at it. But Nosferatu, I saw it on my mom's shelf, but the thing is, the way that Nosferatu is spelled, the cover of the book is white with a bloodstained license plate that says NOS4A2, and people do this, you know, you stare at license plates, and it's like, what does that mean? I had the same problem when I saw Jeepers Creepers, which I'm never watching again, because the monster has a license plate, and it took forever for me and my family to figure out what the license plate was actually saying. So, the NOS4A2, I was like, what? NOS4A2? Oh my god, that's so neat, it's about vampires! And my mom was like, what? And I was like, the book on your shelf! And she was like, what, that book? And I'm like, yeah, it's Nosferatu! And she's like, oh, I didn't get it! Oh, that makes sense! And I was like, since I got it and you didn't, can I read it? Because it looked like she was in the middle of it, like there was a bookmark sticking out. And she was like, yeah, sure, go for it. So I read it, and I read it in like 3 days, and it's really interesting because it's vampires done in a completely different way. The titular character, the Nosferatu vampire, he's not a vampire exactly. He's not like, you know, an undead guy who got bitten by a vampire and then came back from the dead and now he thirsts for blood. He's this man who, in his misguided, twisted attempt to, quote-unquote, protect the children of the world from growing up, he steals their conscience from them. And I'm not sure how, because we don't really see how, but he has this... this is going to sound, like, ridiculous and stupid, but it's so good, and it's so original. But it's about this man, and he's a bad guy, who... he kidnaps children, kills their parents, kidnaps children, and takes them to this place, this alternate dimension that he calls Christmas Land. So this is really like the most rated R version of The Nightmare Before Christmas you could possibly think of, basically. And when they get there, as the journey from the real world to Christmas Land, throughout the journey, the children transform into miniature versions of what this guy is. And so, like, they have no conscience, and so they do things that they think are fun, but it's usually things that are really bad. Like, you see one of them, she stabs somebody because she's like, I think it'd be fun to stab this person. Not and because she has no conscience, she's like, but that would hurt them. She doesn't even think about that. And then she gets confused when the person's like, ah! Like, it's really interesting, and, like, the people in the books have all these weird powers. Like, the guy is not, like, one of a species that can do this. This is a power specific to him. And it's really interesting. And he goes up against this girl this girl squares off against him when she's a teenager, and then she squares off against him later as an adult when he kidnaps her son. And the girl, her power is she can find things that are lost, or things specifically that she's looking for. She's just usually looking for lost things. It used to be she did it with this bike that she had as a kid, and then when she got older and she outgrew the bike, she did it with this motorcycle. But it's this magic power, and she has a friend who can do something kind of interesting. She can tell the future with Scrabble tiles. But every use of the power has a price. So, like, the main character, she starts losing her grip on reality a little bit. Her friend who can tell the future develops a really bad stutter. Like, a really bad stutter. And the more she uses her powers, the worse it gets. And then the bad guy, it's what made him evil, it seems like, is using his powers, like stripped him of his conscience. You're not quite sure, though, because you don't really get anything from his point of view, really. It's a really interesting book, though, and I seriously recommend it. I've been talking about this book for like 4 minutes, I'm sorry. But it's so good. Anyway, Nosferatu by Joe Hill, spelled Nos4A2. 4 the number, 2 the number, Nos4A2. Monster number 2, Werewolf. Written in red by Anne Bishop. I had to really think about that one, because I was like, the Anita Blake series, no. So much wrong with that series. Twilight, no, same thing. Shiver, haven't read it. Vampire Diaries, no. I couldn't think of anything that I didn't have serious issue with that had werewolves in it, except the Others series, and I really like the Others series. Because, unlike in every other werewolf book that I've ever read, in the Others series by Anne Bishop, the werewolves are not humans that turn into werewolves. They're wolves who can turn into humans. And so, like, the mindset, how they behave, is very different and very interesting. It's a really interesting, like, switch on how those kinds of characters are written. And this holds for all the shapeshifters in the series. Like, there's a bear, there's a werebear, there's werecrows. I mean, they're not called werecrows and werebears. They're just called bears and wolves and crows, but with capital letters to differentiate them from regular animals. But it's a really interesting series. There's a lot of heavy, dark stuff in there, though, like self-harming and sexual abuse, so, like, trigger warning on that. Also, trigger warning on Nosferatu. Also, I'm just gonna say this. Assume that every book that I tell you about has something to be triggered about in it, and when I review that book, I will go into more detail with those things. But I did mention in my Written in Red review that there is triggering stuff in Written in Red, and I will link my review to Written in Red down below. Monster number 3, Zombies. Oh my gosh, okay, so it was a toss-up. I couldn't choose between Zombie in Love by this woman whose last name I cannot pronounce, but it's a picture book about this zombie named Mortimer who's looking for a girlfriend. It's so cute, and he can't find anybody, and he finally does. He finds a zombie girl named Millie. I think her name's Mildred? I can't remember if it's just Millie or if it's Mildred, and they call her Millie. But it's such a cute little book, and it shows them picnicking on brains, and it sounds terrible, but it's watercolors, and it's so funny, and there's puns, there's brain puns in there and stuff, and he's so endearing and adorable. And then there's a sequel where they find a baby on their doorstep, but it's a human baby, and they're used to zombie babies, so they think he's sick, and they don't know what to do. It's so cute. And so they take him to the doctor, and they're like, he doesn't cry. He smiles, and he never wails, and he's up during the day, and he doesn't want to eat brains. What do we do? And the doctor's like, well, human children can be weird. We gotta try like this, and just work with him. It's so funny. And, they're trying so hard to be good parents. Oh my god, I love those books. Okay, actually, I think that one won. But the thing is, you guys are probably expecting something that's not a picture book, so I would also say Dearly Departed by Leah Hebel, which is a steampunk, future, neo-Victorian zombie romance. It's so good. Leah Hebel is such a nice lady, too. I reviewed her book on my blog, which I don't really do blogging anymore like, on an actual blog anymore. But when I was doing that, I had reviewed her book, and then, somebody had told her that I reviewed her book, and so she linked it on her Facebook and on her Twitter. Like, this was years ago, but I was just like, she was like, this review was so great. I was like, oh my god, and then she friended me on Facebook. I was like, shit. I'm so excited. Oh, it was so great. Dearly Departed is really good too. It's not like, you know, makes me want to wiggle and squeal cute like Zombie in Love, but I mean, it's a picture book, so, you know, Zombie in Love is obviously not going to be the same, there's not going to get the same kind of reaction, but it's still really good. Monster number 4, Ghost. Paper Valentine by Brina Jovanoff. That one's about a girl who's being haunted by the ghost of her best friend who died from anorexia. And somebody's murdering girls, and so the two of them decide they're going to find out who it is. Never mind the fact that one of them can't die, and the other one can, and almost does. Yeah, it's a really interesting book, though. Brina Jovanoff has this way of writing about things that, like, making the dark and scary and magical, like, all those things together, making it seem mundane. So, like, it's almost like, yeah, okay, so she's being haunted by her best friend. Who doesn't that happen to? Like, that's the feeling you get from the book. It's kind of interesting. But they do deal with the fact that the friend died of anorexia. That is heavily in the book. Like, the main character has to deal with that because she, you know, when you're a teenager and your friend is hurting themselves in that way, like, most of the time you don't know what to do. Especially if you live in, like, a small town and you don't have a lot of resources, and especially if the adults that you ask for help don't give you any help, which is basically what happened. She didn't know what to do, and then her friend died, and that's really difficult on her, and she's still dealing with it, which is probably why her friend is, you know, haunting her. Number 5, Witch/Warlock/Spellcaster. I went with Vasa in the Night by Sarah Porter, which is a retelling of the fairy tale Vasilisa the Brave, which is a Russian fairy tale about this girl named Vasilisa, who, with her magical talking doll, ended up getting lost in the woods, and then went to the house of Baba Yaga, who's, like, basically, like, the evil witch of Russian folklore. Sometimes she's not evil. Sometimes she's good. But in this story, she was evil, and she was planning on eventually killing and eating Vasilisa. Except that in this story, in this book, Vasilisa, her name is actually, instead of Vasilisa, one word, it's Vasa, and then Lisa, her middle name is Lisa, and, she's from Brooklyn, and, there's a spell on where they live, so that, it's night for, like, a really long time. Like, time just slows way down at night. And so, like, sometimes night can last a week or two. But at the same time, like, life still goes on during the day the way it's supposed to. So, like, there's plenty of time to do their homework, which is, you know, fun. And instead of going to Baba Yaga's house, she ends up going to Baba Yaga's supermarket and getting trapped there, and having to work as the clerk because they try to make it seem like she stole something and she didn't, and they couldn't prove that she did. So instead of just killing her, they, like, forced her into indentured servitude. And she has a talking doll who's got, like, New Jersey sass in her, and it's a really interesting book, and it deals a lot with growing up and loss, dealing with loss of different kinds, and it's an interesting retelling of the myth. It's something I've never seen before. And Baba Yaga's a witch, so it counted. Number 6, Fairy or Fae. I was torn between The Replacement by Brina Jovanoff, which is about a changeling boy who is enlisted by this girl he has a crush on to rescue that girl's baby sister from the fairies, because they're going to tithe her and sacrifice her in the sacrificial caves on Halloween, and the girl is like, you're not going to let them do that to my sister, and if you don't do something, I will. And so Mackie, the main character, is like, fuck. And so he goes and tries to save the day, even though he's, like, also trying to keep his head down because he wants people to forget that he's a changeling, because he's worried that, like, eventually people are going to get pissed off and kill him. Or there was that one. It's so good. It's written so beautifully, and there's a lot of music. Is a big deal in the book, and the music is written so well. It was between that and The Iron Thorn by Caitlin Kittredge, which is an alternate history steampunk retelling, not really retelling, steampunk book that combines fairies with H.P. Lovecraft but takes out the racism. Number 7, demons. I'm not really a big demon person, so I had to choose Nevermore by Kelly Craig. It was actually the only book with demons in it, like actual demons that I could think of off the top of my head. It's a redux of Edgar Allan Poe's works, and there's this boy named Varen who gets in deep with who turns out to be a demon, and she gives him the power to create this world, which is actually inside her world, so she's really creating it, just letting him shape it, I guess. And he falls in love with this girl, and the girl gets, like, sucked into the whole situation, and she's trying to figure out what's going on, and he's trying to keep her out of it, and she's trying to save him, and he thinks that, at first he's like, no, I don't want you to get in trouble, and then later, he's like, no, you turned against me, and it's like, there's all kinds of shit going on. And I really like it. There's a lot of stuff in it that, like, well, not a lot of stuff, there's some stuff in it that bothered me a lot that I didn't notice the first time I read it, but even now that I know it's there, I still like it, but I do need to review it so I can talk about that stuff. Number 8, angels. Again, don't read a lot about demons and angels. Not really. I don't really. So it was kind of a toss-up between Cushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey and Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, but then I realized that I actually edited out all of the stuff about angels that's in Cushiel's Dart, so that didn't really count. So I went with Daughter of Smoke and Bone, because the angels in Daughter of Smoke and Bone, like, their species are called the Seraphim, but they're not actually Seraphim, like, from God. So, like, I'm okay with that. And also, Daughter of Smoke and Bone is one of those books that is written in such a beautiful way that, like, spoke to me on a deep and personal level, and so I really like it. I had some issues with the second book, but Daughter of Smoke and Bone itself is really good. Number 9, Alien. I had to think about this for a while, and I ended up going with, this is going to sound totally stupid, but bear with me, Alien vs. Predator, Volume 1, Prey, by Steve and Stephanie Perry. It's so good! Oh my god! Because this woman, this Japanese woman, she is on this colony, and they get, the predators don't know that there are humans on the colony, so they seed the colony planet with xenomorphs, so they can do the coming-of-age hunt, and all the coming-of-age youth that are part of the predator culture end up getting killed off, and so the teacher ends up teaming up with the girl, and they actually sort of, like, he sort of starts falling for her a little bit, and he's like, wow, she's amazing, and you learn a lot about the predator culture that's really good, and the book's really old. It came out, I want to say, in the late 80s, early 90s. My copy is beat to shit because it's so old and I got it used, but it's really good, so you guys should check that out if you can find it. Number 10, superpowered humans. I didn't know if this meant, like, superheroes, or just, people who have some kind of power but that didn't fit into the other categories. I wasn't sure. So I ended up going with, Carapace Clavicle Moundshroud from The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury, because he's not really a human, but he's not any of those other things. He's not a vampire, or a zombie, or a werewolf, or a witch, or whatever. You don't really know what he is. I mean, you kind of find out by the end, like, it's implied that you know what he is, but, or at least that the main character knows what he is, but they never actually state outright what he is. But it's such a beautiful book. I suggest everyone go and read The Halloween Tree. It is an annual read for me. I read it every October, except this year I didn't, because, like I said, wasn't really feeling it, and now I'm ashamed of myself, so I'm going to be reading it in November. And then I added one question, and this is going to be the only question I add, because we're getting a little long here. Number 11, mermaids. And the reason I added mermaids is because mermaids drown and eat people a lot. And so they're actually kind of scary. And I guess maybe they count as fairy fae, but a lot of people don't consider them to be fairy fae. They're a separate thing. So I added mermaids, and I went with The Mermaid Summer by Molly Hunter, which is a middle grade novel about this brother and sister who accidentally summon a mermaid by blowing into a conch shell. And then the mermaid is like, okay, what do you want? And they're like, we didn't actually summon you on purpose. And she gets in a snit about it. And she's like, alright, well, in that case, I'm going to kill everybody in your village because you guys suck. And then they're like, wait, no. And so they have to figure out ways to placate her so she doesn't murder everybody. And they live in a seaside town, and, like, everyone in the town is a fisherman and stuff. So, like, if she wanted to kill everybody, she could do it. And it's a really interesting book, and it was the first book that I read. I read it when I was, like, 6 years old. It was the first book I read that showed that mermaids were actually, like, legit dangerous. So, anyway, so that's all the questions for the Book Creatures of the Night tag. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. And, you know, tell me what other tags you guys think I should do. I don't tag people when I do tags because I don't want to put anyone on the spot. But if you guys want to do the tags that I do, obviously feel free. And then let me know so I can check you out. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Check me out on Tumblr. Check me out on Twitter. Check me out on fanfiction.net. Check me out on Fiction Press. Check me out on Wattpad. Check me out on... what am I missing? Obviously on YouTube. Please support me on Patreon. And if you want, buy me a coffee. In the link, using the link down below. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye! Can you tell I'm still getting used to that outro? Bye-bye!